How you doing? It is Let's Talk Ball. I'm Thad Brown. This is Carl Jones. We do this just about every week, breaking down the X's and the O's via the All-22 film for each Bills game. This will be for Bills versus Patriots. And Carl, let's start on the defensive side of the ball. This is what I'm going to call the Taron Johnson appreciation part of the show, because you and I both walked away from that film thinking, man, Seven was everywhere and he was good. And the later the game went on, the better he got.
I mean, he gave it to you however he wanted it. And as you talked about, I want to say midway through the third quarter, on big hit on 3rd and 7. I mean, just bone chills.
Crush that receiver.
Nice reroute comes off, lays the wood, the emotion showing. Then later on in the fourth quarter, gets a PBU over the middle to get the guys off the field. And then how about his ability to stop the run? I don't know, Taron Johnson, you're not 230. I don't know how big.
He wouldn't understand that. Even if you told him to his face, you're not 230.
You're not 230, my man.
He wouldn't understand it, yeah.
But he plays like it. I mean, from his slot position where he's lining up way outside and his ability to stop the run for 2-3 yard gains, sometimes a TFL, the big TFL he had, him and Taron Johnson, I believe.
Yeah.
Just phenomenal effort by him. With all the missing pieces that they have, including Micah Hyde, Hamlin now out, Von Miller, you're going to need your dudes to be dudes, and boy, was he a dude.
There was that one play where he made the tackle from the – you were talking about this. This isn't like a guy coming from the C gap or a guy playing like a weak side linebacker spot. He's coming from the numbers, head up over a receiver, and cutting down running backs that are running between the hashes. You know, just look, he's had a great season. He's been a really good nickel for a long time, and in this McDermott defense – he is tasked with doing a lot of kind of linebacker-ish duties. And, I mean, just a great player, were both jobs and had another phenomenal game in this one.
Because every single offensive coordinator, every game, when you play the Bills, all right, guys, they're only going to have 2 linebackers on the field.
The whole game, yeah.
So, and sometimes those running lanes are going to be so wide because the third backer is far away, which is Taron Johnson. And Taron Johnson still finds a way to just lay the wood, get in there and fill the gaps. I mean, stop saying that this is a nickel defense with only 2 linebackers. Taron Johnson is both,
yes.
Corner and linebacker. Don't buy the fool's gold anymore. I know it's easy to say, put a third linebacker on the field. Leslie Frazier and I think everyone else who watches the Bills is just they're confident that Taron Johnson can fill that LB role perfectly.
He's a cornerbacker. He's not a nickel. He's a cornerback. That's what we call him. That's really what he is. All right, let's move to the rest of the secondary here. Let's go real quick. I just want to hit Dean Marlowe just for a second, because he was in for Micah Hyde and DeMar Hamlin. Probably will have to play again at least this week. Micah Hyde was had his practice window activated, but Sean McDermott said he will not play this week. Thought he was okay. A couple mental mistakes you guys, we both talked about before this broadcast, back in the office, second quarter or so, but really wasn't anything glaring. The Bills got through the game with him, essentially.
The Patriots really didn't attack him too much. Mm-hmm. I don't think that'll be the case from here on out, considering maybe this week against Skylar Thompson.
I know Skylar Thompson can attack anybody.
Right, but going forward, if you want to make go on a Super Bowl run, he's going to be put in more vulnerable situations where he's going to be forced to make some plays. So to this point, you don't know if he can or can't make those plays.
Yeah, Dean Marlowe against Joe Burrow and that receiving group would be a big issue. We'll get to that. We'll see how it goes. I think right now I would lean against Micah Hyde playing the divisional round, but again, a conversation for another week. Let's move to the other corners now. Tre'Davious White we'll start with first. I think he's had pretty much the same game you and I have been seeing last few weeks. There were certainly flashes of brilliance. The interception is a top-flight, excellent play. But outside of that, there are moments of, boy, that's not Trey White. I mean, he got dusted by Tyquan Thornton in this game. Thornton's got wheels. But again, you expect a guy like Trey White to hang a little better in those kind of reps.
Especially since the guys across from him aren't playing up to par at this point. So you want him to be at
on the other side of the Bills.
Excuse me.
Not the receiver.
Yeah, the CB2 spot. Obviously, Trey White is a phenomenal corner, and he's not quite at his all-pro level that he was 3 years ago. But, man, the reps where he is showing his excellence, man, did he show. I mean, on that interception, there's nothing better than taking the ball away. And with this Bills defense so battered up and not playing maybe to where as well as they need to, you need your guys, once again, your dudes to be dudes, and taking the ball away. No better feeling than that, especially that rep he had for the interception.
And I mean, great technique too, because look, he's sitting in a position where he's like accepting the receiver, never allow the receiver to get on top of him, get down the field. Mac Jones is throwing that before the receiver, even if he does get open, before he does get open, for Trey to stay, on the top side of the receiver, stay on top of him, be physical. And, Trey is a physical corner. Generally, he's more grabby than he is kind of, standing up to a guy. But I thought he did everything right on that route.
look through the back shoulder, staying on top of him, and if, once you clear the back shoulder, let's go make a play on the ball, and that's exactly what happened.
Like as you draw it up. On the other side, I thought Dane Jackson was kind of there, nothing great, nothing too bad. And he probably had the better of the 2 days between him and Kyrie Elam. Obviously, I think everybody saw the Devontae Parker touchdown, the second one. The first one, we don't know. Clearly, somebody blew a coverage. We looked through it a few times last night, and, it seemed like everybody was playing zone except for Kyrie Elam, who was in man, and it was his side of the ball where the touchdown ended up coming. Look, Elam, we talked about, he's a first rounder who has not lived up to the hype. Hype is maybe a bad term. He's not lived up to the expectations that go with being a first rounder. I will say that when the Bills drafted him, they said he was the last first rounder on the board. That tells me you're talking about talent, size, speed, not necessarily fit. If they were going to draft a fit guy, they probably wouldn't have taken the last first rounder on the board. And I think Elam has been square pegging around hole all year long. He just does not look comfortable in that defense. When he has to drop off and play a zone technique, there are too many times where receivers are just turning around, getting in front of him. And then, even when he does get a chance to fight like he did against Parker, he's big and fast, but he's not amazing at either.
Right, and I think that was the thing that was a little concerning on that rep. We talked about this before we got on. That rep was 90% brilliance.
The second touchdown.
The second touchdown, excuse me, the one where Devontae Parker went up on top. Yeah. Good rep for 90%. However, cornerback, you can play great for 99% of the rep, but that 1% is what matters. And that's what's so frustrating, especially when you play that position. The catches was all that matters. You can play that position well for 58 snaps, and there's 2 plays where you mess up on, and big plays, guy turns you around or something like that.
26-yard touchdown.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's where opposing receivers, opposing quarterbacks, opposing offensive coordinators are like, yeah, we can get away with this. Instead, if you get a ball, you don't even got to pick it off. Just an incompletion in any way, shape, or form, maybe then it's a little bit more reluctant to go at you going forward. So that's where it's concerning, because it's like, man, you were there. Like, it's not a question of ability at this point. Just shoot your shot. Like, that's where it's like, man, you got to be able to pull the trigger.
Well, just look at this game. If you're the Dolphins offensive coordinator, or assumably the Cincinnati offense next week, you walk away from this game and think, all right, Mac Jones threw a go ball against Trey White where the receiver had not gotten open yet, and Trey White stuffed it for an interception. Mac Jones also threw a go ball at Kyrie Elam where Elam was in perfect position, and it was a touchdown. What are you going to do if you're the offensive coordinator going forward?
And having said that, the first play of the game 2 Monday nights ago against the Bengals, they attacked Trey White.
Yeah.
Now, granted, it was a PI, and that's Jamar Chase. I don't care if it's Jesus Christ and himself in front of Jamar Chase. I'm taking Jamar Chase.
Right,
yeah, right. But having said that,
no
though,
disrespect to the Almighty. that dude can flip his hips. Let me tell you.
he can turn around for sure.
Yeah.
But Trey White, even himself, they're not all too scared of him. So what do you think they think of the other corner?
Yeah, right.
So that's where it's a little concerning.
All right, defensive line-wise, I thought a disappointing game overall. Look, Ed Oliver got single blocked a lot in this game. Made some plays late. I think the nice part about what the defense did is for 2.5 quarters, it really seemed like Mac Jones was not doing whatever he wanted to, but having success. And then late third into the fourth, the defense as a whole started to step up. We talked about Taron Johnson. I thought Ed Oliver made some plays. Greg Rousseau had a Greg Rousseau game where he's like a non-factor for 90% of the snaps, but then the 10% of the snaps, he looks borderline dominant, throwing guys around, getting rushes on the quarterback. He also had a sack that really wasn't anything he did. It was a coverage sack. He got in late, but he got the sack.
The Greg Rousseau special.
It was the Greg Rousseau hat trick, Don't show up for 90% of the game, be dominant on 10%, and get a sack that really wasn't something you did. It was his classic game. I will say I thought A.J. Epinesa, also like the rest of the defense, stepped up a little bit late. I saw a couple decent rushes out of him, but there were long stretches of this game where Mac Jones dropped back, and he could have started a campfire saying kumbaya, roasted marshmallows, the whole deal. And there was just no pressure on him at all. As a result, the Bills started to blitz a lot more. And you saw some good blitzes. I mean, look, Leslie Frazier can draw up a blitz. So there were good things and creative things that got the Bills some pressure. But you go back to this opener of the year against the Rams, front 4 rushes the whole game. In this game, it wasn't effective.
If Mac Jones is comfortable, and granted, the Patriots scheme is not anything too complex, the receiving core isn't great, the offensive line aren't world beaters. If he's comfortable, because you got the Mahomes of the world coming up, the Joe Burrows, maybe even a Justin Herbert, Trevor, who knows coming up next. we got to pick it up, and it got to be in unison, because obviously the secondary isn't playing great, so you need the front four to play well, but the front four isn't getting pressure. Somebody on either unit has to step up and make some plays, because it wasn't encouraging, especially in that defensive line room last Sunday.
The Bills' defense did well against the Bears. You start thinking the last few games, right? Decent game, good game against the Jets, allowed 12 points. 2 were a safety and a block punt anyway. But, I mean, the Dolphins put 30 on them. The Patriots, 23, a better game than you would expect from them. So I think this defense as a whole is concerning. Micah Hyde comes back and plays anything close to Micah Hyde, a big, big boost, because now you solidify the middle of the secondary. You allow the guys on the outside probably get a little more comfortable. You give the rushers up front a little more time. I mean, the Chiefs have one of the better lines in the NFL. Sitting here right now, if you give Pat Mahomes all day to throw, I mean, it's going to be a problem. So, again, this week with Skylar Thompson and the Dolphins, the Bills are almost going to get a kind of a de facto bye week to try and figure some of this stuff out. But going forward, I think we agree there are concerns on this defense.
Yeah, and one last point, the Bills usually don't miscommunicate because they're so veteran heavy on the back end, all the moving parts, especially in that Kaiir Elam touchdown. Having a guy like Micah Hyde may dwindle down some of that a little bit.
Yeah, and there were more than one miscommunications in that game, we thought, other than just the touchdown. All right, offensive side of the ball. We'll start with Josh Allen. You have a better read, I think, or a better thought on this game as a whole. I just want to say the 2 touchdown passes were as good a pair of throws as you can see. Now, the one to John Brown, where he improvised, sent Brown deep. Brown did a nice job reacting to it. Josh does put a really good throw on the run, like a 40-yard throw on the run. That's like an A++ throw. The other one to Diggs might be the throw of the year. And this is including the 98-yarder hit to Gabe Davis. I mean, NFL Next Gen Stats tracked it at 62.2 yards. He is getting hit on the play. He is throwing from one hash to the field side, not the boundary side. And the throw isn't letter perfect, but it is 98% perfect. And Diggs had to kind of come back to the middle of the field a little bit if I want to nitpick a little, which is just funny to do because this throw is like an A. Remember, you saw A Christmas Story, right?
Yeah.
You know how when he turns the poem in and he dreams the teacher going A+++, and drawing the pluses around the room.
This is one of those.
That was this throw.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, the 2 touchdown throws were as good as you get quarterbacking wise, and there might not be another guy in the league that can make both those throws. Maybe can,
right,
but probably wouldn't.
Can, would, will.
Whatever. Beyond that, what do you think?
I thought he was patient. I thought he was really on the Knox touchdown. You can tell he had the urge to get up out the pocket.
That was a 3-man rush.
Yeah, and he was trying this don't seem right, but he stayed in there and maybe took 2 steps to his right, but and threw a seed. A couple of other throws early on in the game, especially where the O-line, some of the times they were letting pressure in, sometimes they weren't. He was willing to stay in there and make some throws. So patient on the interception. He probably should have left the pocket, but I think that was Judon pushed, I forget who the tackle or guard was in that scenario, into him. So then now the ball gets tipped. So maybe that's probably the one play where he was a little too patient. Nonetheless, I was very impressed with how patient he was, because we've had times this year where we thought, man, Josh, sit in there, make the throw. In a game against the Patriots defense, who has a good front four and does some complex things in the back end, that is good to see going into the postseason, that your quarterback is at least upstairs clicking where he needs to be. Maybe some of the other boneheaded decisions that he made in the past, hopefully that's in the past. But the patience, I love to see, because it was his feet up to his mind clearly. Love to see that out of Jay.
I didn't like the throw on the interception. I know it was deflected, but
well, I didn't. Yeah.
That's one where you probably need to eat it, And Josh is again trying to make the hero play, but there were 2 or 3 plays where you could see him going progression 1, progression 2, progression 3, drop the ball. So yeah, I thought a really, really good game by Josh Allen. Up front, I think generally okay. Against a Patriots defense that's top 5 in sacks. Did you hear Uche's name called the whole game? I did not. Judon was hurt.
Makes sense.
A little bit. He was in and out. So, but still, Spencer Brown. This is at least the 2nd or 3rd game in a row where I kind of give him a plus. I thought he was, handled Uche pretty well when he got him. Had a couple reps on Judon, was fine. Made a couple mistakes, but really I thought had a plus game. Roger Saffold had one of his better games, which we haven't said nice things about him often in this spot. The one thing I will say, Ryan Bates didn't play well, and the line as a whole is losing on blitz calls. Now, I don't know. Basically what I'm saying is when the Patriots did bring an extra guy, more often than not, that extra guy got a free run. Now, some of that might be a protection call where the quarterback says, you take these guys, I'm going to be responsible for avoiding this other player. And Josh Allen is obviously one of the best avoiders in the NFL. But from what I can tell, when blitzes come, they're getting a free rusher more often than not. And I'm a little concerned about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're seeing that, obviously other DCs are seeing that as well,
Yeah.
especially with a team like the Dolphins. And I know we're writing the game off because Skylar Thompson's at quarterback, but still on the defensive side of the ball, the Dolphins send more exotic blitzes and pressures than just about anybody in the NFL. So that was a part where I was like, man, like this, because you said that yesterday, and I'm like, let me look and see what they're talking about. And I'm like, man, I feel like Peppers is back there, or I believe 27's back there. I'm like, yo, figure this out, because Josh he don't got enough time to go from 1 to 2, let alone 1. Like it's that was a little concerning for sure.
And I guess if you're the Dolphins and you have a third-string quarterback, damn the torpedoes and send the kitchen sink at Josh Allen might be your play for trying to win this game on Sunday. Beyond the offensive line, going to the skill guys, Stephon Diggs was Stephon Diggs. Although I will say, you see a lot of, and it's becoming more and more obvious, bracketed coverage, high-low coverage, even triple coverages. Teams are trying to take him out of games. And, I don't know if I told you this story, but so I'm on the field during the game. And before the long Diggs touchdown, literally that snap, he was like 5 for 40 something in the game, really hadn't done much. And I said to the photographer standing next to me on the sideline, I'm like, is Stephon Diggs still in this game? And then Josh hits the lightning strike, 49-yard touchdown, whatever it was. But that was a great play and a great throw and a great route. Beyond that, teams are still generally taking Stephon Diggs out of the game. So it remains a little bit of a concern. Not that Diggs is bad, it's just you can see on film, there's coverage everywhere around 14.
And what's concerning about that is this was his first 100-yard game since, I believe, the Vikings game.
Yeah.
That crazy comeback Jefferson led with his acrobatic catches. But the other guys aren't consistently stepping up. I know we had Dawson Knox a few weeks ago having a big game, but this is where Gabe Davis, you expect him to have a big game. I know he had a couple drops. Him and Josh weren't on the same page on a couple things. But if Diggs is getting so much attention, you need the others, as I like when Shaq says that, when the other guys outside of the star players make plays. You need your Isaiah McKenzie's, your Khalil Shakirs, your Dawson Knox, your backs out of the backfield to make plays, because Josh Allen can't run around and make every single play, and Stephon Diggs can't catch over 4 people. So that's where the Bills got to figure out, because it's go time now.
I will say, I thought McKenzie was successful against man coverage a significant amount, but it seemed like every time he got open, that was one of the plays where Josh was running for his life. And then, look, but on the flip side with McKenzie, he does get a ball over the middle, he's got a catch, and he drops it. So it's hard to throw those balls if you're not trusting that guy. I know fans have been, talking about Khalil Shakir, Cole Beasley, John Brown. Cole Beasley obviously didn't play in this game. Brown had 7 snaps. There wasn't much from Shakir or Brown in this game that made me think this is a guy that the Bills need to feature more often. Brown at times looks like he's too slow, to be an effective, dangerous receiver. I think Shakir has some juice. It's inconsistent, but maybe if you develop it, I think a couple years down the road, I can see something out of him, but not for a couple weeks down the road.
Not in this time of year, I'll tell you that.
Exactly. Yeah, right. So, I think fans see the other receivers as, well, I don't know that these guys can't do it because they haven't played all year, so let's give them a shot. And I'm telling you, there isn't anything on film that has ever said to me, wow, Shakir or John Brown or even Cole Beasley, and I mean Brown and Beasley might have 50 snaps combined so far, so you don't really know. But there's just nothing out there that says they need to play these guys.
It's the old, when the starter quarterback doesn't play well, the backup has to be better.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, I promise you, my man, these coaches get paid millions of dollars, and I know there's agendas at times and stuff like that, but it's go time for the Bills. They haven't had a productive wide receiver 2 all year. If they had one on the roster that they trusted, he'll be out there and he'll be getting more snaps and more targets.
And the funny thing about fans suggesting that they change starters at this point, this is still a team that was the 2nd or 3rd best offense in the NFL. Top scoring offense, won 13 games. If you tell the coaches, hey, good job this year, we think you should bench all the guys who've gotten you there, they're not doing it. So look, the key to this playoff offensively is going to be McKenzie, Davis, Knox. One of them at least, probably more than one, playing better than they've played over the duration of the season. They've all had good games here and there. You need those games from them, and probably, again, not this week, but the next 3 weeks after that.
I don't necessarily need a Gabe Davis record-breaking playoff game out of him.
We don't need 204 touchdowns.
We don't need that, but you definitely need something where the other defense is like, all right, I trust my assignment on this guy, go handle Stephon Diggs. That's not a good sign when DBs and DCs are saying that.
Yeah, and there's really not much coverage being rolled over to Davis, any of those other guys. It's all being focused on Diggs, and then teams are just allowing the other receivers to have an opportunity to beat them. Last thing, our running back discussion. We are not in agreement here. I'll let you start where we're going to go with this.
So I'm at the point in the year where James Cook has showed he's improved a lot over the course of the year, because in the beginning of the year I thought, man, the pass pro wasn't necessarily there. Even out of the backfield, he wasn't really catching, or none of the drop downs. Having said that, for the past probably 2 months or so, I've seen enough where I feel confident with him getting the majority of the snaps going forward. And the reason why I say that is, down by down, I think Devin Singletary is better, especially in the short yardage situations. Every time it's third and short, I'm at the point now where I feel good that Devin Singletary is going to run somebody over. But with the Bills, who don't run the ball a lot anyways, and when they do, it's not necessarily efficient, I would much rather have the guy who can get me the 18, 20, 25-yard run, as opposed to the guy who just Singletary can do that. And I think he did in the Bears game a couple times. But if we're going to go boomer bust with this Bills running game, I would choose the guy who's literally the boomer bust back.
I hear you. And I mean, Cook is definitely that guy. And I think Cook has gotten better with his vision. I think he sees holes better, reacts to holes better. The thing about Cook is that he needs space to be successful. You know, if it tightens up on him, if there's hands on him, he's going down. Devin Singletary hit an 18-yarder in that Patriots game where Cook only gets 4 because he gets tackled. You know, Singletary eluded a tackle at the line and got a bunch more. And from my point of view, the runs where Cook is successful, there are a lot of running backs that would be successful on those runs. Because for Cook to really have an impact, he can't just get 10 when the hole's wide open. He needs to get 40 when the hole's wide open. And he's not doing that because once he slows down and has to get sideways or horizontal, he's not an elusive guy. He's not big enough to be a tackle breaker. So, I mean, look, I'm not saying bench Cook. You want that guy in there because he's not terribly less effective than Singletary. Like, there's no way I'm going to sit here and say he's bad.
Right.
They're close. There's no doubt about that. But I think the infatuation with Cook is, I'll go back to what we said before. It's the guy that people haven't seen fail yet, you know? So, and also he's the fast guy. And everybody loves speed.
We all love speed. Come on. I'm a speed guy myself. I like speed.
So, you know, I understand it, but relying on Cook or making him the primary runner, even if you're talking a 60-40 split, you know, I think you're asking for more negative plays than what Singletary can provide. That's what I want to say, because I think we agree Singletary has the better floor.
Yes.
You know, but even the top end, I mean, what has Cook hit this year that hasn't been in garbage time or against the Bears? Like, does he have a 20-yard run other than those situations? You know, so we want to ask him to do that in the playoffs? I don't think so.
That is a fair point. There's a lot of great points in that one, and honestly, he got me on the athletic part, because honestly, that's why I like Cook so much, because I'm an athlete myself, and seeing Cook move the way he does. No, but in all actuality, though, I don't feel as if there's a gap between the guys where I'm like, man, they have to be on the, like, for example, I do think there is a gap between Khalil Shakir and the other guys, just because the consistency matters so much for an offense. So I don't think that he needs consistent snaps. I don't feel strongly either way where Cook needs to be on the field or Singletary needs to be on the field, because I think what the other provides to the table, the other brings something where you're like, yeah, okay, I can see. Because I do know that Josh loves checking it down to Cook, so he clearly has a good rapport with him on that aspect. Having said that, though, when they do design pitches to the side, he doesn't really do much with those either. So he's clearly not the pass-catching back that we thought out of Georgia. But I don't know. I'm a big boomer bust guy, because that was kind of me. So I kind of.
I mean, look, I get that point. All right. So Bills going to the playoffs now. You know, Dolphins again this week, like we said. Not much danger this week. I guess, you know, if they're going to play a game, anything can happen. But you know, we will probably be here next week talking about Bills, Dolphins. And you know what? Whenever they do get eliminated, and maybe they won't get eliminated, we'll just talk about the Super Bowl. We'll be here after that week as well, too. So thanks for watching Let's Talk Ball or listening. He's Carl Jones. I'm Thad Brown. Check out something else here at RochesterFirst.com.